Good morning, ball watchers. We are back for a recap of Houston Dynamo versus St. Louis City SC in Houston. I am Jake, partnered up here with Justin to do a full recap of, I would say, a happier draw compared to last week. I'm definitely a little more, woke up with a smile on this morning. I thought that was one that we earned versus dropped last week. I don't know how you felt about that, Justin.
No, I completely agree. I would say we knew it was going to be a tough one going down there. 9-2-2 at home for Houston, a team that has been trending upwards, especially recently. So I would say I was happy to get a point out of that. And it was, and we'll go straight into it. What's my one word summary? I'm going to go with gritty. I think it was a very gritty performance by the guys. It was not pretty. It was gritty. Nothing looked great. I would say our goal had some great buildup on it, and we'll talk about that. But overall, it was just a point that we needed to get, and we got it.
Yeah, I like that. And I'm going to actually copy Carnell for mine. Mine is going to be statement. I think the team came out and showed us something last night that we hadn't necessarily seen recently. I'm not saying ever or this season, but that resilience to come back from a down position and, when things don't feel like you're going your way. I mean, last night's first half kind of encapsulates that. I think we had the better of the play for most of it. We just couldn't get the goal, and it came against the run of play. And the team responded in the second half against a team that's pretty solid in the second half. So ultimately, I think you take this away and you're happy about it. And that concludes this road trip, which has felt very long. And I'm glad to come back home against LAFC.
It has felt extremely long. I completely forgot. No, was that 3 back-to-back games?
That's right. Yep, 3 back-to-back. That's why if you're looking at this or looking at the episode, I called it "Are we there yet?" It just felt like it just kept going. So I'm glad that we could end the road trip this way. But let's jump into the highlights here, Justin. We'll keep this one kind of short for y'all because we're also going to do an LAFC episode in quick turnaround for you all because I know that game's going to be hot on the heels of this. But let's talk highlights. So last night we had, I'd say, a pretty good starting 11, different than what I was expecting for sure, especially with a guy like Jake Nerwinski coming in. And you're also seeing Celio come out of the cold and into the 11. He wasn't even on the bench the last couple of games. So that was very shocking, but I was glad to see it. And in the early part, we get going. Leuven kind of setting the pace, I would say, both defensively and offensively. But this specific highlight in the second minute, him just staying, uber tight on Karaskia, making sure we don't give much space to their exciting wingers and attackers and forces his shot over the bar. And then I think early on, you saw the signs of what we were going back to, which felt to me like our press. Our press was the biggest highlight of last night. I feel like it was on. We were creating havoc on Houston's back line. They looked uncomfortable and out of place. And for a back line that's conceded, what did we say, Justin, the second least or, in probably top 5 least amount of goals this season, it was great to make them uncomfortable.
No, and I would say one of my just general highlights, I thought the press as a whole was great. And that's one thing I will say a lot to Joao Klaus up top. I feel like that's one guy that obviously we've been missing, and it's one of those, originally at the beginning of the season, we didn't see him work off the ball as much, but he's had a complete mindset change. And that man gets after it on the defense and on the goalie, putting the goalie under a couple times. And I will say, so forcing them to go long in the 6th minute, we take it down and get a corner. In the 8th minute, AZ draws a dangerous free kick in a yellow at the top of the 18. And I love that you have Leuven goes Ronaldo style and just hits the face of the Houston defender. It leads to a good corner kick for us. And then on 2 other quick real highlights in the first 15 minutes was Stroud plays direct and has a shot on goal in the 11th, and then a whipped in curler free kick from Leuven in the 12th, which we talked about. I think it was one of those games where we needed to get some dangerous set pieces, and I think we did with corners and free kicks.
Definitely. And I wouldn't even say they were dangerous. The service was really dangerous last night. I don't know if we were really making the most out of these opportunities, but yeah, I mean, we have a couple of those, which we'll get into in here. But Leuven, I thought, especially in the first half, just kind of taking the game by the scruff of the neck. He was beating guys at ease, at will, on the dribble, playing an AZ who drew yet another free kick in the 18th minute. That was the story of the first half for us, finding dangerous positions, just not making the most of them. Celio, oh my God. In the 21st minute, stole that Escobar guy, stole his lunch money like 7 different times in the same dribble until Escobar just had to bring him down. It was all pissy. It was, I loved that guy. For me, was one of the guys, if we were playing at home last night, they'd been booing Escobar off the field. He was so flamboyant and obnoxious for Houston last night. It was so funny to see us get the best of him. Again, Justin, we're seeing more instances in the notes just littered in here of Leuven free kicks, just unbelievable service. If you're a guy that gets up and you don't fear much when you're going up for these set pieces, a guy like Tim Parker, like you had to be salivating over the service that he was putting on a platter last night.
Oh, absolutely. And I will say, not only with that, dude, I think with Celio, going back to Celio, you mentioned it, I think his confidence really got up when he went down to City 2, got some minutes, played with some of those boys, and now he's happy again. And I love that he got the start there. And I will say another guy that was an absolute spark plug last night was AZ, and he, with a start, not even coming off the bench for a spark plug. So in the 28th minute, there was a throw in from Nowinski to Klaus. Klaus did a great job holding the ball up, as he always does. Slips in AZ, and AZ just gets a shot off. I think he was a little worried about the defender behind him right at the goalie. Not really a hard save there, but a good chance from him. And then 5 minutes later, AZ again in the 33rd takes a rip from just outside of the 18, forcing a diving save from the keeper. It was going into the corner too. So I love the creativity that AZ was bringing in the first half.
I do too. And the last thing we have in here, and I do feel like we've been hard on this guy this season, but last night was, for me, the Jake Nowinski coming out party. He had a heck of a game last night. I think he was far and away our best defender, and he contributed both going forward and defensively as well. He was a lockdown defender, so steady, so confident. So I want to give him his kudos, because we don't get to do that very often on this show. So Jake Nowinski, hell of a performance last night. Otherwise, let's wrap up the first half in terms of highlights. Press was super active, created a lot of opportunities and issues for Houston's back line. We were, forcing them into fouls and yellow cards. They had a couple early yellow cards as well in the first half. Celia looked really lively. Nowinski looked solid. Leuven's set pieces were out of this world. Nothing new there. And I think Parker and the back line, for the most part, were sweeping up most of the danger. Now, we didn't cover the goal in there. We'll get to the goal in the highlights. That was just, for me, like, that was a moment, just a switch off, ugly moment for the defense. But otherwise, I'd say a solid first half all around.
The one thing I will say is, and I was like, wow, we don't have any highlights between, what was it, from the 33rd to the 41st. That's because Jacob went back and looked at it. There was 10 total fouls in the game between 34th and 40th. So 6 minutes, 10 total fouls. This had been the most fouls in an MLS game in the history. We had 19 and they had 14. That's absurd.
It's a lot of
fouls. What is that math? That is 33 fouls. That's a foul every 3 minutes in this game.
Many.
Ridiculous. And like you said, they had 3 yellows for the 25th minute.
And I think we're one of the highest fouling teams in the MLS, if not the highest. And they're one of the harshest in terms of like yellow cards. So, but the combination of those two just makes for a referee feast. I mean, that whistle was blowing like there was nobody's business last night.
I mean, yes, I'm looking that up right now to see what we have as far as stats for yellow cards and for fouls. And let's talk on that. We touched on this really already, Jake, and I know we'll touch on the highlight or in the lowlights here. But one thing that I was like, Parker had a great foul at the end, just running through a guy in the 93rd or 94th minute.
Mm-hmm.
But so that gave him a yellow card. And I'm like, oh boy, where does he sit with yellows? And so you and I both talked about this ahead of time, because I realized now he has 8 yellow cards on the season. And technically that would mean that he'd be missing the next regular season game. However, there is a good behavior clause, and somehow Tim Parker has had 5 straight games where he did not get a yellow, which then reduces that yellow card count down by 1 as far as having a possibility of suspension. So thank God that they have that good behavior policy. And I don't know how that man went 5 straight games with a yellow, but he did it. And that's one thing that we need to keep monitoring. So he will technically now have 7. So 1 more yellow and he will miss on the next regular season game. I don't know if that resets for the playoffs. I would hope so. Because Jared Stroud right now, he also has 8. But he had 2 stints of 5 games where he did not have a yellow. So technically he is sitting at 6 as far as suspension goes.
That's good insight you bring up, Justin, because I bet the coaching staff, I mean, they're aware of that. I bet they're managing that. I bet they're in Tim Parker, they're in Jared Stroud's ear, and they're telling him, hey, give us 3-4 more good games of just clean, solid defending. If you really, really have to, and there's a goal on the line, take the card. We'll take the suspension and deal with it. But really try your best. And obviously Tim Parker rattles off 5 perfect games, good behavior. We take a yellow card off. So, I mean, it really pays off, because it was sucked to lose him for Wednesday facing LAFC here. But I looked at the fouls while you're talking about that, Justin, really quick. St. Louis, we are the number 1 fouling team in the MLS with 418. Red Bull are number 2. Houston are about 10th, I would say. And then yellow cards, we are much further down the list. Actually, no, only 4th. We have the 4th most yellow cards, and Houston is 3rd. So that the combination of those two just makes for a ton of fouls and yellow cards. That doesn't surprise me, actually. All right, so let's get into...
It doesn't surprise me. I just thought that was an absurd amount of stoppages in one game.
Yeah.
game.
Yep.
Having
No,
a
I'm
third
with you. I'm with
three.
you. So let's get into the highlights for this one. So the second half, obviously a little bit different for us. Leuven had a great opportunity, shot over the bar on AZ's layoff. We were generating more opportunities. We came out of the second half ready to play, like ready to get it going, get our goal, find our equalizer. Early subs, we talk about it. Sometimes Carnell's early to it, sometimes he's later to it. We found in this time he was the early to the ball, and I think brought on some good ones. We got Nico and Thor on for AZ and Stroud. Which was good. That I wouldn't say they ended up being the impact subs, because the impact subs for me were ultimately Indy and Ostrak, who really came on to wreak havoc at the ball at Houston's expense there. But Leuven again leaving his mark on the game. Incredible ball directly to Klaus. Remember that? It was like 40 yards just on a rope. Klaus couldn't handle that first touch, and it would have generated a great opportunity. But you can see Leuven, like he's leaving his mark on games, and sometimes it doesn't pay off. Sometimes we can't, put enough quality around it, but you just see the quality. I mean, the service of that ball there, again, there's just not many players in the MLS that can do that with that amount of quality.
No, I still am just shocked every time we watch him play and how he can just handle the midfield, and not only just on the ball, but off the ball as well, and making runs and finding players. That's one of those things we talk about, like how many times Berkey has saved us in games. I feel like Leuven has done that on the offensive end, just bringing guys through. You don't get on the stat sheet with the shots that he has or the goals, and he does have a lot of goals still, but I'm more talking about how he sets up other players with free kicks and just through the runner play as well. We had another highlight in the 71st with another great press from us, taking the ball away in their defensive third, and then Thor looks for Klaus on the cross. I will say this is our first Berkey highlight in the 74th, having safe hands on comfortable save down to his right. He only had 2 saves on the game. So I will say this is one where I think the defense really stepped up, and that's great for us to be able to block that many shots, because Houston is an attacking team, and I just feel like they didn't have a whole lot of chances on this one.
No, I agree. Not that I can only remember. I don't really. They had some moments for sure. I mean, obviously the goal is one of them, and we'll talk about that here. But I agree, for the most part, I feel like we stopped a lot of it before it could even happen. So otherwise, again, you see Klaus's instance as well of him leaving his mark on the game. The way he can combine, connect, flick on for other players. You see his flick header in the 84th minute onto Ostrak, who plays a great long first touch, and he tries to square that cross in for Nico, but the goalkeeper cuts that out. And then we finally break through in the 87th minute. We have we caused the leaky defense for some other team, which was great to see for us. This goal is so not us. It hurts, but I love that we have it, because basically in city content team, you're listening to us right now, go look at other clubs that have possession based goals, and go look at the highlights they make for these teams, where like they put the whole roster on the bottom of the screen and they light up players' faces as they touch the ball. Every single player except for Berkey was involved in the buildup of that goal. Now, I'm not going to say that we had every single thing was a pass, because Ostrak's shot got saved and then Klaus puts it away. But every player on the field, every field player touched the ball in this build-up. So Thor, Leuven, Indy, you name it, they touched it. Ostrak had a great first-time shot after a bunch of this build-up. Indy was playing at left back and found himself providing the service here. Klaus is there, Fox in the box, gets that header on frame. He's just there to clean up. And what a moment for him. Again, 2 goals in 2 games now. Look out. This guy could be making a last-minute kind of push for Golden Boot if he keeps this form up. Who knows?
I mean, I feel like he would have already had it locked up if he didn't have an injury for what felt like a year and a half. But I will, the goal was very much not us. It started by working the ball around the back, and then there's a little up back through, up to Nico, back to Thor. Then he slips Leuven through, and then Leuven is dribbling at the left back, and he actually gets spun around as Indy makes that run in behind. Great ball by Leuven to slip him in there. So one other highlight that I had after the goal was in the 90th minute. Leuven for sure tried to whip one in with his left foot. He said it got deflected. I don't think it did. It almost sneaks in the upper post on the near side. Goalie has to jump inside of the goal. It just sneaks over the top.
We would have been thieves running. I mean, I don't think it would have been necessarily unfair for us to walk out of that game with 3 points, but oh my God, to steal it in the last dying seconds would have been incredible. But we can't. Still, I'm very happy with that result for us. Generally, I think from positive sides for us, we ran them out of gas. Houston looked so out of shape at the very end of that game. And they even tried doing time wasting in the first half and in the second half. Carnell had told Klaus, this is funny, I picked this up in the press conference after, he's like, hey, keep going out there, Houston's getting real tired. And he turned to Carnell and he said, but coach, so am I. And that was before he scored that goal. I mean, I love it. I mean, I love that we're the ones that, are the ones that in shape. We're not appearing leggy. We just gave it to him. I mean, Carnell took the kitchen sink, uninstalled it, and just threw it at Houston. And it worked. And we got the result we needed.
Yeah, I would agree. The one thing that it's still Nilsson, his groin still not 100% yet. I did see Indy did have good glimpses, and just with his passing and just creativity coming off the bench there. So I absolutely loved it. I feel like Indy, maybe I'm just a huge Indy fan right now, because if anybody hasn't seen it, the full YouTube video, the 10 minutes of him going up the guys and telling them about their FIFA ranking, that the perfect guy for that. It was hilarious.
I 100% agree. I'm glad you brought that up. I meant to. Two things. Indy should be, he's one of the leaders for sure of this team. Maybe he's not one of the captains or vice captains. I feel like everyone likes Indy. He feels like the epitome of a glue guy on this team. And he's also a hell of a player. And I want to see him get a start. I think he deserves a start. I would like to see a midfield that features both him, Leuven and Blum as well. I think that's just a lot of really, really good, comfortable ball players in the middle of the field. And so he can play a lot of different places. He's playing wing back last night. Without him, we don't come away from that game likely with a goal. So I'm excited for Indy. It's good praise for him, and he deserves it after some longer stint on the bench, I think, that he would like. But lowlights, honestly, there wasn't too much as a whole, I would say. I don't think Blum looked great last night. That was one of my things for him. He was overcommitting at times. He looked just a couple smidges off the pace. He just didn't look himself, where he's cutting out things and he's super proactive. And so that was unfortunate. He conceded a free kick in a really dangerous area last night. And we know Hector Herrera is very, very dangerous on those. So you can't be doing that. And that was in the 33rd minute. And then they broke through in the 42nd minute. I don't know what you saw in there, Justin, but it was a classic instance of Houston just being very patient in and around the top of the 18, kind of looking for and prying for that right bit of space. I think we were kind of caught ball watching. And they played the cross in, they played a little through ball in, they played the cross, and it's chipped over Burke. He was coming out to kind of meet this guy and close down a shooting angle because he was still pretty close in on net, and chip it over Berkey, and then Corey Baird for Houston is waiting there in the back post. Berkey was pissed that there was just nothing he could do about that one, and Parker was kind of holding their most deep forward on by his positioning, didn't step up in time. So unfortunate. For me, it feels preventable / a little bit mental for us.
I would agree. I feel like we were definitely I hate that we were using this term, but just because we've been using it so frequently, but we were a little ball watching there because they were so patient in the box. And I felt like Parker he didn't really know where to go. He was a little bit too deep, but then he tried to step. And then after the ball got chipped, he tried to be the guy to get to the back post. And then the guy on the back post was technically Nerwinski's guy, which I feel like I've done this plenty of times as well. Once the ball was slipped through, he thought for sure that guy was going to shoot it, and he just kind of stood there. He thought either the play was going to end in a save or a goal, but then it was chipped back post to his guy, and he sneaks in there. So I feel like Nerwinski could have been a little better there. And then another low light, actually, just getting into the second half, was that it was a highlight in the fact that Stroud is putting their goalkeeper under press. The goalkeeper takes a bad touch and has to do a sliding kick. And he leaves his boot high into Stroud and definitely does not get a call on that, which I was a little surprised by.
Yeah. And I actually thought the officiating in general was okay last night, but some of the lowlights were for me just officiating, just some missed calls. But I will say the caveat is that it was consistently not great. If we had a couple calls that didn't go our way, they also didn't. And you know what? That for me is a sign of a decent performance. So I'm okay with officiating as a whole. But I've seen instances where that gets slowed down in slow-mo on the VAR, and there's a red card for the goalie. Right? I mean, it just things like that happen, and you look at them in slow-mo, and you're like, oh my God. I mean, not that he wasn't cynical at all, but it looks bad, and it's irresponsible to leave your foot out like that.
I think it's the fact that he obviously kicked the ball first, but then he left the cleats literally high into Stroud's thigh, and it wasn't even looked at, dude. So that really threw me off. I would say also another low light, which somewhat of the officiating here in the 55th. AZ was chopped down after an undercooked through ball by Klaus. One thing I will say on that, Jake, more of a low light for us. It looked like a lazy pass from Klaus. AZ was clearly in, plenty of speed, plenty of pace, wide open, going down the middle, and Klaus does an outside of the foot right foot ball there, and it just doesn't have enough pace on it. So right there, I just think that Klaus is kind of what put him there. I don't think it was a foul. I rewatched it, and I think he gets ball first, but it was a close one, and definitely could have been a free kick for us, which would have been nice.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I really don't have much. I think there was still some instances of some jumping in, defending, but for the most part, for us, I feel like, back to front, it was a pretty solid game all around, and I feel like that will show in our player ratings. But before we get to that, let's talk about the podcast and our lovely, lovely sponsors. So I'm gonna start with sponsors, then you can go podcast, Justin. But I was just walking outside right before this, and it's beautiful. It's so nice. But in the sun, it gets a little warm. Still get a little like taste of summer there. And what better way to hydrate and stay healthy and put something other than alcohol and booze into your body after such a long weekend? I know, Justin, you were indulging yourself probably quite a lot. So what better thing to put in your body than soul juice? 3 ingredients. It is clean. It is good for you. So much potassium. They're more than bananas. And it is going to help rehydrate and bring that body back to life. Soul juice there. And Justin, I am so excited for Wednesday, LAFC. It's going to be a blast. We're going to go to the pitch and absolutely just have one, because it's going to be exciting. The pitch will be bumping for all city events, obviously. But it's not just that. I mean, we have football, you have college football, obviously NFL, you have, the Blues are even starting up pretty soon here. I mean, why not make that your place to go watch these games? The Cardinals, winding down, unfortunate, been a long season, but it's all those stadiums, all those places are right there. It's City Park, Enterprise, Busch, it's all right there. And I think they're trying to make this more of a place, a more general type sports bar. So don't think of it as just your city place, but man, it'll be bumping on Wednesday, I'm sure.
I am so excited to get back to the pitch. That kind of got me amped up when you started it. I can't believe that we already have them on Wednesday, so I'm pumped for that. And we'll be going there a lot more. Mizzou just hit that 61-yard walk-off field goal last night. So that, obviously, I would have loved to watch that at the pitch. I was at different events. But then also, I will say, you already mentioned Soul Juice. I mean, Sam Howell, quarterback of the Commanders, drinks Soul Juice, promotes it, loves it. Look at Jordan Morris, one of the best U.S. men's national team players in a while for us. I know he's kind of declining now, still drinks a ton of Soul Juice, loves it. And the Cavender twins. If you have not seen these ladies, they are very athletic, and they also like to drink Soul Juice. So I would say, if you're not drinking it, why? So go get some, get it at Deerbrooks, get it online. You can do 20% off on souljuice.com, and you can get that from us. And then for the pod specifically, Jake, I know we're doing a little reverse here. If you're watching us on YouTube, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Leave us reviews if you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. It only helps us grow, and we're trying to do this for you guys. We're about to reach 9,000 followers on Instagram today. I know Jake's pushing 3K on Twitter. Dang. We're growing, dude, and we got the closest. What was it? We are very close 5th place for best podcast for the MLS. Is that what it was?
Actually, I want to touch on that as we get to the end here. That's a good point too. I forgot to bring that up, but let's talk about the very end here. But before we do that, let's talk through the player ratings. Let's get those report cards out. Get whatever color markup pen you want to. But I think it was a relatively green night for the boys. When I say green, we're in the positive for a lot of these players. So I'll start with Berkey. Quiet night, but one I think he was probably happy to have. The goal he couldn't do anything about, probably frustrating for him. You actually, saw him. It looks like he was like chewing Carnell out at halftime. They definitely had a little bit of a spat. Not that Carnell was giving it back, but they had some sort of disagreement, and I'm sure it's fine. But okay night for Berkey. I'll give him just a flat B. Like, just wasn't called on that much, which is great, but he managed the moments that he needed to. But our back line, I thought, had a really solid night altogether. I thought Nilsson looked better, more composed. It looks like he's getting there. Like you said, his groin just still isn't 100% there yet, so they can't give him the full reins. But once he's there, I'm sure they will. I thought Parker had a strong night. Markinick had a strong night, but Jake Nerwinski, A for Jake. I mean, great performance. I can't imagine a game. I think they put him in there to be a little more defensive minded for Houston and nullify some of that threat in the wings. But he also did a lot more attacking as well, which I just hadn't seen from him. So I'm excited for Jake, and I think Jake might have given Carnell a problem to think about moving forward when picking right back.
No, I am all for that as well. That is one guy that I feel like we have been a little bit harsher on, but last night played incredible, and now we're having a great problem of having too many guys that are playing well right now. So backline as a whole, I give him an A, only allowing 3 shots on goal total, which is great for us. I will say then, moving up to the midfield, Leuven, I'm giving him an A as well. I just feel like the way that he distributed the ball, we had so many highlights with him from free kicks, corners, also just putting guys through. He had, I guess you'd call it like a hockey assist, which he'll definitely get an assist for, actually, because MLS does do hockey assists if you do lead to the goal and actually had a contribution there. So that slip through ball into Indy from him was beautiful. I'll give Blum a B- just from having a yellow card, didn't have any highlights, didn't have any lowlights. And I feel like he's kind of been in this slump almost right now.
Yeah.
Like we haven't had, we started the season so high on Blum. And right now I feel like we haven't had a whole lot of highlights coming out of him recently. So I don't know if it's a confidence thing or what, but I would like to see a little bit more out of him. I'll take us up to the top, Jake, and then I'll let you review these as well. Celio, A. I also just love Celio, but I feel like he did good creativity. He was good on the press. I would say Stroud, maybe an A-. I think just because he did create some chances, didn't really have a whole lot of highlights out of him, but I feel like he did very well with the press as well. AZ, I'll give a B+. I feel like he has some chances he maybe could have finished, but he was creative, so I do like that there. And then Klaus, I'm going to give an A as well. I feel like just on, off the ball, whatever. The finish was great on the header after the save from them, and then finishing it there. And I just feel like he was also did very well positioning with the press.
Yeah, and the only things I want to call out, because I think I agree with most of those, AZ, not his best night, I would say. And I think what I'm missing from AZ is his finishing abilities. I feel like he squanders too many chances still, and a lot of that's because he's young, and he'll get that. And I'm absolutely confident that he will get that, and he still offers so much to this team. He finds himself and his teammates in such dangerous positions. I would rather have no one else doing that in the field other than him. I just want to see that final lethal pass or that curling shot where the goalie just can't save it. I think he'll get there. Blum, and you said it, and you made a good point, Justin. There's been a couple games he's been in the green for recently, but really he's not been overly consistent. And I think at this point in the season, you're looking for consistent performances, and we're going to need to see that from him. I still think he's a must start because no one else can do what he does at this point. But I could see him potentially shifting out for just rotation and seeing Indy take up that position and see what it looks like when we were dealing without Blum for a while. So that is one swap I would be on the lookout for, as well as I think our subs. Kudos to the subs, came on, made the difference last night. Tomas Ostrak, I think for me, is one that made a big difference. Same with Indy Vasilev. Nico and Thorson, I thought were both fine. But obviously Josh Arrow got on kind of some cleanup time as well. But subs made an impact last night, so I'm happy for them. Good performances. How did we perform, Justin? Bets, predictions. Hey, I'm 2 for 2 recently here. I predicted this one as well with a 1-1 draw. So I locked that in, and I was wrong though. I bet first half draw on a bet, and I bet double chance, and double chance was plus money actually when I went to grab it last night. So I was very fortunate to hit that.
Yeah, I predicted a 1-0 dub. We knew it was gonna be low scoring. I know I said I'll never bet unders. Kind of wish I would on this one. I just didn't see it going over, and I didn't bet it, but I did bet the double chance as well. I got that to even money, so happy to be in the green on the money side of betting as well. So I'll take my L of having a 1-0 dub and getting that wrong, but I'm still making money, so I'll take it.
Good stuff. Well, tell us magic number, Justin, before we round it out here, because again, good results happening around us, good results happening within our team. How are we looking for the final kind of run-in here for, our second last home game, right? With Elliott. No, sorry, third last home game, right? Because we still have Sporting in Seattle.
Yeah, it's looking great, Jake. So now currently we have 49 points with 5 games remaining. For us to get the round 1 home field advantage, so the 4th spot in the total standings, we only need 1 point technically right now. For us to get the round 1 not home field advantage, so that'd be the 7th spot or higher. We already clinched. Basically, we have -1 points right now based on that. Like I said, I'm going to keep these negative points there because I want to see how that grows and where these stand. And then also we've locked up the wild card. We're -4 points there and plenty of time to go. I will say we do have some tough games coming up. So looking at this, we have LAFC. They are 2nd in the West. We have them on Wednesday. They have 43 points. Minnesota United on the 23rd. They are 8th in the West. And then we have Sporting on 9:30. They are 9th in the West. I have them as 8th here on the visual, but I'll update that. So all of these teams are still in playoff spots and very much looking to improve what they need to do to be able to have a better chance in the playoffs. I will say, and we'll have the LAFC preview coming up here in a second. They are 2nd in the West, but they are only 3 points away from being 8th. So this is a massive game for them coming into St. Louis on Wednesday.
Yeah, big swing. I mean, it's really technically a 6-point swing, right? Because we're going to take from each other or give to each other. So big tilt coming up on Wednesday, coming with LAFC coming to City Park for the first time. So I'm really excited for that. Like Justin said, we will be back with you very, very shortly to have an LAFC preview baked and ready for your consumption for Wednesday night, because it's going to be quite the fixture. But I'm glad to be done with this road trip. ultimately, I think successful. Cornell and the team had said they set a goal limit, a point threshold they wanted to hit. They said they came up 1 point short on this, but you know what? All things considered, the way we trended on it, I think it got better and better. Galaxy was kind of a little bit of a blip. But I do think this is a good performance from the boys last night, and one they can come into with some momentum. LAFC, because LAFC also just played in El Trafico on the same day yesterday. So we're excited. Good draw from the boys last night. I think good confidence, momentum heading into Wednesday. But until Wednesday, until our preview, hope you all have a great rest of your Sunday and week. Until we talk to you next, all for City.
All for